The workplace and repetitive strain injuries. Employers should do what they can to help reduce incidences of repetitive strain injury in the workplace. Cases of repetitive stress injury and repetitive stress disorder are on the increase due to the sheer number of computers that are now used in the workplace. Repetitive stress disorders, RSDs, also known as cumulative trauma disorders, are responsible for approximately 60% of work-related injuries. 12.5% of working Americans have been diagnosed with RSD at some point in their lives, which means if you employ 100 people, 12.5% of your employees will have been diagnosed with this condition. This is why it would be wise for you to make sure that you do what you can to prevent RSD from occurring. Employees who have sustained an injury caused by RSDs can potentially make a claim under their workers' compensation insurance. This is another reason why you should do what you can to eliminate incidences of RSD. Workers who are most vulnerable to RSDs. The workers who are most vulnerable to developing RSDs are grocery checkers. These days, grocery checkers use barcode scanners to identify the products that customers wish to purchase. Every hour, grocery checkers use a handheld barcode scanner, or they slide the products across a scanner, and it's these repetitive motions that can potentially lead to hand, wrist, elbow, back and neck problems. Office workers. Because office workers tend to use computers a lot, they can be vulnerable to RSDs. Officer workers' hands, wrists, and elbows may be affected by the repetitive movements associated with using a computer. If a worker is not sat at their desk correctly, maintaining a good posture, or typing with their wrists raised a little, they can suffer from carpal tunnel syndrome and RSD. Jobs that require employees to stay in a specific position for hours at a time, also known as static posturing, binding in one position for hours at a time, can cause RSDs, regardless of whether the employee is standing or sitting. Desk clerks, operators, mechanics, and anyone else who needs to stand or sit while twisting and making a range of movements for hours at a time can be vulnerable to RSDs. Other jobs that can lead to RSDs include working on an assembly line, painting and polishing, sanding, jackhammering, pipe setting, meat packing, driving, writing, butchering, overhead work, cutting and sawing, massaging people, mechanics, filling shelves, packing bags, playing an instrument. Carpal tunnel syndrome. Carpal tunnel syndrome is a type of RSD and involves swelling in the tunnel that is made by ligaments and the bone in the wrist. When the tunnel swells, it often puts a lot of pressure on the nerves that pass through it, and this can lead to numbness, pain, and tingling. Some other very common types of RSDs include Tenosynovitis, which occurs when the boundary that can be found between the sheath and tendon becomes irritated. Myofascial damage, which occurs when muscles have been overworked, resulting in them becoming swollen and tender. Tendinitis, which occurs when there is a tear in the tissue that connects the muscles to the bones. Cervical radiculopathy, which occurs when the discs in the neck have become compressed. How to prevent RSDs. One of the best things that employers can do to help prevent RSDs is to think about ergonomics. Improper ergonomics causes RSDs across the country, every single day. Someone who works in ergonomics studies how people work with or interact with the physical environment. Physical environments include desks, garages, and any areas that people work in. Employers should do what they can to minimize the injuries that their employees suffer from. For example, if you have a team of people who work in your office all day, you should make sure their computer screens are at the right height, and the chairs your team sit in allow them to maintain a healthy posture while working at a computer. You may also need to think about how the layout of the office affects your team, and consider changing it if there are problems. Make employees aware of any potential concerns. One of the best ways that you can help to prevent carpal tunnel syndrome, for example, in office workers, is to help them keep their wrists straight while they are using a computer. In addition to this, they should also sit up straight while keeping their shoulders back and their elbows down. You may want to think about purchasing gel wrist supports that sit in front of a keyboard, helping to keep an employee's wrists straight while they use a computer. Symptoms of an approaching RSD. While there are no clear indications that someone is about to develop an RSD, the damage has usually been done before they realize all is not quite right. Because of this, every employer should be made aware that they could experience aching or dull pains in their limbs that they notice when they are not at work. Dull pains and aches could be felt when they are raising their arms, or twisting the lid of a jar to open it. Those who work in a store or at a computer may experience these issues. Experience numbness or tingling in their arm, hands, or specific fingers. These symptoms could be a sign of nerve damage, and they are serious. Experience fatigue and be unable to carry out the same jobs as they have done in the past. Experience clumsiness or weakness, and find that they drop things, have trouble picking them up, and experience loss of strength. Working to combat RSDs. Because the number of RSD cases appear to be increasing, some states are thinking about using specific regulations for workplaces that use computer workstation. For example, in New Mexico state, employees who regularly use a computer have to reduce glare and eye strain by making sure the lighting in the room is correctly maintained. Control any glare by using non-reflecting furnishing and indirect lighting. Allow each and every member of the team to take frequent breaks from work. Ensure every employee has a chair that is easy to adjust and flexible. Ensure workstations are a good distance from cooling and heating vents. Control noise levels by using acoustic pads. If more employers were to use New Mexico's workplace regulations, it is highly likely that incidences of RSDs would fall, resulting in healthier workers, and fewer workers' compensation claims.